guys. Okay, so my name is Stacey Lauren, and I'm the founder of Do the Thing, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys on the Capsho sponsored show. We're going to be talking about creating a movement. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to be able to go through this with you and show you where I am at with identifying all of the things that happens when you get your voice out in the world and you're starting to talk to people about the things that really matter to you and how that brings you alive and it brings them alive and all of the things that come with that. And it's so cool because this is my fourth episode with this show, and the very first episode I was not even able to figure out how to share my screen yet. And so each episode that I'm doing with this, I'm learning new things. And so this is the first time I actually invited my cousin to watch. And I was like, can you comment so I can see if I can see you? And so I just see her, hey, Randy, that she's on. And so I think maybe the next episode I might start inviting people to start watching. And so what I wanted to point out about that is that's how you create a movement is you kind of start with yourself first, and you start to feel comfortable with your voice and who you are on the inside, so that by the time people start being around it, you're more confident in the things that you're doing. And I did this in a Facebook group. I started my movement inside a private community. It's funny because it feels different now that it's on YouTube, and it's even more different because it's not my channel, it's someone else's channel. So there's another level of responsibility that sometimes we can feel. And so I've been actually almost refinding my voice with this show. But with that, what that means is I wasn't really ready to invite people yet because I still needed to tap into my own kind of inner, I want to say it's still been a little bit uncomfortable and out of my comfort zone. Whereas when I'm in my comfort zone in my Facebook group, I am completely myself. I am so alive and so connected. It doesn't even feel like a comfort zone stretch anymore. It just feels like I'm talking to my family. But when I started doing this show, oh my gosh, it was so different because it's on YouTube. It's Capsho, who, I mean, they've been a huge part of my success with what I've been doing with Do the Thing because they make it so easy to automate things on the back end. I can do one simple 5-minute video and then it pulls out a year's worth of content. I mean, and so the pressure that then added was a whole nother level. But you know what? The owners are amazing. And every time, even this morning, honestly, I'm just going to tell you guys, it is messy when you have a heart-centered mission and you still struggle kind of having back end, stuff. And so even this morning I mentioned to one of the owners, Bona, I'm like, okay, here I go. I've got it scheduled, and it's live. And she's just like, I'm so excited. You're awesome. And just they're so encouraging and loving. And those are the kinds of partners that you want, are people that understand what you're doing and the mission that you're on. And sometimes it doesn't look perfect. It can be a little messy. And so that's how you start a movement, is you get around people who share your goal and share the purpose of what you're doing, and they understand you, and they really they want that. That's what they want. And so that's what we're going to really be talking about today. So you get to see the newest version of where I'm at right now with the journey. So for those of you that don't know me, basically this started when I owned a staffing company. It was for 20 years. It was a lot. It was 60 internal employees, 600 external employees. I had 4 offices. It was a lot of moving parts, so much noise that I could barely hear my own thoughts, right? Because the noise was just constant fires and people needing my help and support. And I was the CEO of the business, so I was kind of doing all the things, right? And so, and I also did not want to put myself out there in the world. So I would get asked to speak at associations. I got asked to be on podcasts and different things. And I always said no. And I would find my best employee that I thought could do better than me, and I would put them in that role. And it was because I was like hiding like parts of myself. I was worried that like I would show up at this association as the expert in the staffing industry, and maybe I didn't know enough about what they thought I would know, right? And there was like parts of me that felt insecure about really like what my even role was. I connected with some people about this in a CEO group, and I was surprised that I wasn't alone, is like feeling like an unsophisticated CEO. I didn't get my like CEO badge from like going to MBA school. I got it from, you know, sweat, sweat equity, right? And like just hard knocks, like door to door, kind of like crushing it sort of thing, you know? And so there was always this like level of like insecurity that I thought I wasn't good enough in that role, even though in the business I felt good because I was like, I knew what I was doing. But for people outside the business, I thought I had to like be something. It wasn't until I exited that business and decided to write a book that I really started to like kind of tap into my confidence and owning like who I was. And I'm sharing this because this is really important when you're wanting to start a movement, or maybe you're not there yet and you just want to engage your group, or maybe you want just listeners on your podcast, or maybe you just want to start a podcast. Whatever it is that thing is for you, the first step is tapping in to your own confidence, no matter what level you're on. And I'm going to get to show you kind of the different levels and where you might fit in on those levels through this live. So I'm actually really excited about that. But so basically, when I was thinking of writing the book, I talked to a book strategist, Sandy Missouri, who's amazing. She helps people get best-selling books. And I couldn't remember a lot of my stories at the time, and I didn't know what to do because like my my mind was so sucked dry from this like staffing company that I owned that I couldn't remember anything. And so she told me to interview 10 people. That's what she said. She's like, interview 10 people. Maybe they can help you write the book, because the interviews could be used inside a book, which is, I guess, a book strategy. And so as I'm doing these interviews, I'm realizing I can actually have a podcast. And so I ended up recording the videos. And what's funny is they were video, but they were audio only, because I wasn't even comfortable like having my face on camera yet. It's just like, that wasn't for me. And so, yeah, I had audio only. It was on Zoom, but there was no video on. So the first 80 episodes have no video. There might be a couple in there that got mixed in because I did an expert panel and some different things, but for the most part, it was no video. And I was really like kind of discovering who I was through these podcast interviews. And what happened was, my podcast is Do the Thing. I really wanted to help people, which is funny. It sounds like I have a lot of mental baggage. I was about to say I really wanted to help people overcome their mental baggage by helping them tap into who they were, I wanted to help them overcome their mental baggage so that they could do the thing. And so you're hearing some of my mental baggage, but I didn't even know it was there until I started the podcast. I wasn't even aware, because in my mind, I was this person that had always done the thing. I co-owned this successful staffing company, ended up being $35 million a year staffing company. I went door to door sales when I was in college. I worked for this clothing company, but it was like we got to clothe like C-level executives. So I would go do like door-to-door sales pretty much at these like huge like not apartment, but office complexes, like, like 20 stories, downtown San Diego. And really just kind of always went for what I want. I went to Europe and backpacked and did school and all this stuff. And so in my mind, I had always done the thing. And so, yeah, it wasn't until like the 10th, 12th episode was when I realized that I've always done the thing, but I didn't really do it for me. Like, I thought that like people would expect me to like do something. Like, I did it because like not that I like, it's hard to explain, but I want to just tell you the piece of it. And the lesson that I want you to know is that's where the find your voice piece came out of Do the Thing, where it's like, it's so important to really identify like who you are and like what you want. So when you're going after it, you're tapped into your deepest desires. And it's not because you think it needs to look a certain way. You think that people are expecting something from you and the pressure that people have from you. And what's funny is I had tapped into that. But now, what happens now that I'm at a different level, like circle, I'll show you. I have a comfort circle framework that I'm going to show you today. But I have to refine my voice at each level. Because just like I said, being on this show on Capsho's channel, it's different than when I'm in my Facebook group because that's my family. It's a whole nother level. I'm also doing stuff for Eileen Wilder. We actually have a challenge going on right now called Disrupt the Market with Your Voice. It's a Do the Thing challenge. And it's so fun. And she's amazing. She's my mentor. I've learned so much from her. And I had to find my voice with her community. I even did a kickoff for the challenge on Monday, and I was still myself, but I still have an edge of like something. And so the point is at every level, no matter what you're doing and who you're doing it for, it's really important to just like re-tap in to who you are and what you're here in the world to do. And that's what having a heart-centered mission does. And the other thing is, I talk to people a lot about the importance of being messy. Let me tell you what I mean by that. So being messy means really like knowing, why are you doing this? Like if you're here on Capsho's channel, like you're here because you're wanting to put some kind of message out in the world, right? Maybe you're a content creator. Maybe you're wanting to have a community or a movement. If you're here today with me or watching the replay, you're wanting to have a movement, or you're wanting maybe to have a blog or something. I guess it would still be under content creation. Or you're an entrepreneur, a coach, maybe a speaker. And so you're wanting to put something out into the world, right? And it can what can happen a lot is you think you have to like look a certain way. And I don't mean just like your appearance. I mean like even like your like tech stuff, like your website needs to be perfect or even have one. Your images all need to be like perfectly curated. You need to overly orchestrate any event that you do, and you need to know exactly what you're going to say and when you're going to say it, and have this like outline of the whole thing, and know before you go live that you know like what's going on. And so that happens to so many people. So here's what happens when you live in that lie is, number one, it's exhausting because you're having to do so much work to put yourself out there, right? So much work. You're just having to like spend weeks sometimes like prepping, preparing, rehearsing, like all of the stuff, right? But when you're able to tap in to your heart-centered mission and the thing that's like so deep in your soul, and then you actually can settle your mind down enough and get the thoughts out of your head of like whatever that negativity that comes up, or the, oh, what are you doing, or oh, blah, 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 like the stuff I was saying earlier, the stuff that I still work through depending on whose audience I'm in front of. The more, and I'm actually feeling like the best today, just so you know. So it's like I flexed the muscle enough that I feel like I'm good now, which is great. I still feel an edge of the comfort. I'm reaching my comfort edge, but I'm feeling better than I have before, so that's good. So yay! But when you're able to tap in so much to that, we don't have time to do all this stuff. We have a mission. Like I'm on a mission to change the world. Like that's what I'm doing, you know? And I'm like, you can either come with me and be messy and have fun and like, let's play together at like the biggest level and like do it together. Or if I'm not your like cup of tea, and I'm saying this for you too, this isn't just like me wanting you to like follow me or anything, just so you know, but like, or like, or like, you know, or maybe you're just not the right person for me. And I want you guys to like really know that when you're creating your movement, you're going to find those people that like when you're tapped in and you're not caring what you're going to say, what people are going to think, or any of that, because you actually, like, it's not so much that you even have thick skin around it, because I actually taught that in one of my, I did a dating challenge where I had this, when I sold books door to door, I read this book called Rhinoceros Success, and it really did help me handle rejection, and I love it. And the rhino is a symbol of like having thick skin and being able to hear the no and being okay with it, because like if you're a rhino, you obviously can handle rejection more. This is so much bigger than that. Like when you're tapped into your heart-centered mission, you actually don't care what people say, because you know why you're here, why universe, God, all of it, like what your calling is in the world and what you're here to do. And so that's what we're doing. That's what being messy is. Messy is like, I don't have time to like have to have things look a certain way, right? While I do eventually want to like have someone clean up on the back end. And my cousin Randy's here, and she's actually going to be helping me. Hey Angie, and Angie's here. Angie's going to be helping me. I've started now, like I know what I'm doing, where I like for a while I was just like moving and like doing these like do the thing challenges. I had no idea what was happening, but like all these things started opening up where I'm just like helping people. And then all of a sudden, like now, like the last few months, I've identified the comfort circle framework in a way that I'm going to show it to you so you can see how to create a movement. Now I know why I'm here. Now I know what I'm doing. Everything's connected together. And so the part I didn't tell you was, after I basically was doing this podcast, I was doing these episodes. I finally was comfortable turning the video on. I ended up dissecting this formula for how to help people achieve their goals. And it's an acronym. It's I'm game. Each letter stands for a piece of the formula. And so what happened is the first 100 episodes, I'm like dissecting the formula through my podcast interviews. And I'm like finding out, and this is what I would encourage you, because this helps you create your movement, is through your podcast, you're able to like experiment and research the common patterns. And honestly, we could probably easily do that now with different tools like Capsho and being able to see what those common patterns are. But I essentially was asking people like what their do the thing story was and what helped them achieve their goals. And that's when I started dissecting the formula. And so I'll tell you quickly, there's another episode that I could share that goes into this deeper, but basically just so you have an idea of what it was. So I'm game is identify the why. M is mindset. G is goals. A is accountability. M in game is my people. And the E is educate. But what happened was once I started dissecting this formula, I was like, I've got to test it. And that's when I started my first Facebook group. And I did a dating challenge with dares, because I mean, that's fun. That's really fun. And so I tested the formula in a group. And then what I noticed was the winning piece of this formula, the one that no one talks about, was the M in I'm game, which is my people. And that's being with people who have the same goal as you, that want the same thing as you. This is different than a support group. So there's support groups out there, which sometimes they're necessary, right? Especially if you're in the beginning of overcoming some kind of traumatic experience, or really any like transition in your life. It has a place, but when you're ready to get out of that traumatic state and you want to actually like move from it and lift through, that's when you want to join a group that has a goal. And that's how you start a movement, is there's some kind of common bond that connects you together, because now you're going towards something together and you're actually sharing an experience. And if you think about this, like we know this with like the military or sports or clubs at school, there's like a lot of different examples of this. Jesse Itzler does this really well with 29029. He has, it's like a Mount Everest equivalent kind of thing that he set up, and people get really close, right? And so it's the my people part of the I'm game framework that really helps you achieve your goals. And then what happens is when you've got your group, now you put the other letters of the formula in it. So the I in I'm game in the group, it's like Simon Sinek says, identify your why and the power of the why. Well, I say put that in a group. Tell people the why in the group, because when you're able to feel safe inside a private group and tell people why you're doing the thing, why do you want that goal? Now you guys are like seeing each other and you're like, I want that too. And you start to feel close and connected. And honestly, what happens is sometimes someone else's goals are bigger than yours. And so then you're like, oh, maybe I'm thinking too small, and it gets you to expand. Or maybe someone's goal isn't as big as yours, like the reason why they want to do it. And then you're able to help them. And I'll explain which letter that is in a minute. And then the M and I'm game is mindset. And mindset, what I do in a group, when I build my groups, which end up becoming movements, I have a dare in there and it says, what are your excuses? What's going to get in your way as you're trying to do this challenge, and reach the goal that you want to reach? And then how are you going to overcome it? I always ask them how they're going to overcome it, because if you're excited about something, it's really easy to want to do it in the moment. But when you don't have time, or when something's hard or like scary or whatever it is, if you don't already know what you're going to do to overcome it, it's hard for you to really stay in momentum. And so that's why I love that dare. But when you put those excuses in a group, now all of a sudden you're feeling no longer alone, because you get to see that people have the same excuses as you. The thing that you thought were only you, like imposter syndrome or people pleasing, or am I not good enough or worthy, or what am I going to say? And you start to see the people in the group have those same feelings. Now you feel connected. You feel like you're bonded with them. And so, yeah, I'm just thinking of Brene Brown talks about the power of vulnerability. Well, same kind of thing I was saying with Simon Sinek. They're great. I love these ideas. And now I'm just adding the part that it goes in a group, right? If you're going to be vulnerable, put it in a group, but make sure it's a safe space, because that's really important when you are starting to be open and vulnerable. And you don't have to be open and vulnerable about everything. There's parts of my story I don't talk about, but there's other parts that I am comfortable talking about. It depends on how far along you are from the thing happening to you. And so, so that's that. And then the goal in I'm game is the dare is what I do, but you could do any kind of goal that goes in the group, right? And then accountability, that's in the group. My people, you already talked about. And then educate, I sort of mentioned that, but that's where you're getting educated from the people in the group, or maybe the leader in the group, or maybe there's podcast episodes, books, and things like that. And then what's really cool is when you get to help other people. This happened in my podcast challenge, where, oh my gosh, it was so cool. I had so many of my community members helping other people as they were in there. And when you get to help other people and educate others, that's when you're getting the fullest level of contribution, because you're tapping into your own fulfillment that way. And so, so that's what I did. I started doing these challenges. I did a dating challenge, I started a podcast challenge, a go live challenge, and I'm testing the formula. And I've been helping people build audiences. I've been helping them build engaged communities and movements. And I actually even had this program called the Wealth Experiment. I'm not sure if I'm changing the name now, because the answers for the Wealth Experiment are here, which maybe that'll be another live. You guys can let me know if you want to hear that, and then I'll see. But what I ended up identifying was this comfort circle framework. I actually, in every challenge, I have a comfort circle that I show, and I've showed this in prior episodes on this Capsho channel, so feel free to watch those, but I can give you an idea of one of them, which is a lot of times people want to go live, but they can't go live yet. And so I have a Find Your Voice challenge where I help them go live, and I do it by introducing this idea of a comfort circles, where instead of going live right away, first of all, do it in a group, private group, where you know the people and you feel safe, or at least you know them, that they're wanting the same thing as you. And then you could first start by typing, then you can audio, then you can video, and then you go live. One of my challenges, Randy, I saw Randy just said it's magical. Thank you, Randy. Randy's been a part of this whole process. It's been so cool, and I'm so glad that you're here as I'm finding my voice on this Capsho channel. And so, Randy, I'm sure you remember this, but man, I want to pull this video because it'd be fun for people to see it. But do you remember when Neil was in the Go Live challenge and he was watching the whole time? So basically what happens is with Go Live, they were going live every day and people were seeing all these people go live. Well, there was somebody named Neil who was watching everyone go live, and he hadn't gone live yet. And so by day 17 of the challenge, he went live. And that's when he said, I'm live because I've been watching you guys go live. And that's what happens when you're in a group. That's why the speed is so fast, because you are seeing other people do it too. And it gets you in the energy and the momentum, and you actually want to do it. And it's like the coolest thing. And so anyway, so here we go. I'm going to show you the comfort circle framework that I am at right now on how to start a movement. Hoping I can remember how to do this. Let's see if I can remember how to share my screen. Oh, I do remember. I'm so excited. Here we go. Great. Okay, so here we are. Let me see if I can, you know what? I'm not going to mess with it. You guys can, I think you're good seeing it the way it is, right? Hopefully that's good. Let me try. I feel like I can, let me try. I'm going to try one more thing. Let me just make it bigger. There we go. I did it. Yes. Did you see that? Look at that. We're getting there, guys. Okay, so what is the horse? Okay, we're gonna talk about this. This is how you create a movement, you guys. So it starts with 100 people. Well, actually, let me talk about this. This is my first time kind of like really, I've talked about this before, but I feel like I really understand how to explain it. And oh, this is what I was gonna tell you, is the podcast. I used it to figure out, okay, I don't just wanna help people do the thing. I wanna actually help them find your voice also, right? Then I decided to help people like dissect the formula for how to do the thing, which was where the I'm Game framework came from. So what happened was, after that, I haven't been having as much fun on my podcast, so much that I mostly have been going live in my group, and then those lives get on my podcast. I haven't been as excited to like reach out to people to interview them until today. I interviewed someone, and actually this happened also couple days ago, where I felt like really inspired to show them this comfort circle framework. And because they were telling me basically their story, and I was seeing the comfort circles. And so that's what I was really excited. And so, yay, I'm so excited I could read the comments. Cece, I'm really digging the Capsho channel. It's a way to share your message. Yay, so excited. I know Capsho is amazing. And just so you guys know, if you haven't signed up yet, I think that they're doing a free 7-day trial that probably is in the link here as well. But feel free to reach out if you have any questions about that. But yeah, so basically it starts with you. And then, like I was saying today and the other day, the interviews that I did, I felt inspired to show them the comfort circle framework. And what happened with that is it turned something on in me where I'm like, oh my gosh, I could use my podcast again to help me like speak better about how this works. Because like, I think when you're a podcaster, you're like a researcher that's trying to like understand like a message. That's why like I ended up doing a TEDx talk on the power of community and how it helps you achieve your goals. I did that talk because of that whole thing that I was able to talk to you about, where I interviewed all these people, I found out the formula, then I tested the formula in a group, and that's when I found the secret, which is the power of community helping you achieve your goals. And it happens to be my people. And then once I had dissected that formula, I wasn't as excited. I liked connecting with people, but I didn't have like a pull of like why I was doing it until today. And then a few days ago, I did a Follow Your Heart expert panel, and I actually showed the comfort circle framework because I want people who are on this journey to like talk about how they have done this, because the more we can talk about this, the more we're going to be able to help other people go through this journey. Because honestly, like if you had some major thing in your life happen, some major pain and some traumatic experience and something that you've learned, and you're ready to share whatever it is that helped you move through it, the person that needs to hear that message, they don't care like what you look like. They don't care how you sound. They don't care what your ums are. They don't care if your hair is wet. I did a video once in a shower cap. No one really cares any of that stuff, because they need to hear the message. And if that message is staying stuck in your body, like that isn't good for you, and it's not good for the world. And so that's the other thing that all of this stuff does, is I wanted to mention, this isn't just about you helping other people. this kind of thing, it helps you heal yourself. So the more you get your voice out, you're healing yourself. And by you healing yourself, you're also healing others because they're getting to learn from your experiences. And so, first, you're going through this process yourself. So, let me kind of like talk through what this is. So, the horse represents really like the nonverbal part of like the traumatic experience, like the problem that you went through. I actually discovered this because I have, in addition to Do the Thing, I have a new business called Do the Thing Studios. And one of my business partners is George Macrinos, who is like a Hollywood storyteller. Basically, he works with all kinds of people. Actually, I can't even talk about one of the things he's doing because it's a really big high level project. But anyway, it's amazing getting to work with him. And then Christina Cabral, she's a visual communicator and she helps automate things on the back end for that business. But what happened was we ended up going to Saddles and Service, which is they basically are helping overcome the suicide rate in veterans and in our active duty and first responders through equine therapy. And that's when I understood the horse part of this comfort circle framework. So the horse is just a symbol. For them, the horse is actually their thing, where it's like people will join that are actively suicidal, they'll join their program, but because they're not having to have therapy, or even talk about what's going on, they're just met with the community and the horse. They're actually able to kind of like be met where they are, which then gives them a safe space to start to open up when they're ready. And so this might be something in your life when you're thinking about it. So since I've identified the horse, I've been obsessed finding out what people's horses are, and this potentially could be a future quiz. I'm saying that because Randy's helping me on the back end, and maybe we'll do a quiz about what is your horse. But like there's another company organization I ran into that they're helping people do this through sailing. There's a gaming video movie that we might be working on, which is going to show how people start sometimes with the video game. That's where it starts, right? It's a nonverbal part of what you're doing. And so I actually did this. I think my version of this was I went to a fitness camp when I was at a really like difficult time. I was actually thinking of checking into a mental hospital, and instead I went to a fitness camp. That's a story for another day, or you could listen to my podcast. But basically, exercise what was my horse version, right? And so the point is everyone's got a horse in their life, right? Where you are basically met with this like nonverbal place, but you're ready to be in the room with people who want to achieve the same goal as you. So that's like where you are in the group. Online, this could be a lurker. This could be you with the video camera off. This could be you not engaging, just watching, observing, right? And so then what happens is if you are met like in this like safety zone, now you can start to feel comfortable and start like talking to people, right? And you start to like find your voice, or you might even do a more drastic part of this, which is like, who am I? What am I doing here? like a lot of times people wake up in their 40s and their 50s, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, my whole life just like went by me. I need to like do something, right? And so you're starting to find your voice by number one, being aware that this even happened. And then the other thing is you're just starting to talk about it and you're starting to express yourself in whatever way that is for you. And so that's what the find your voice piece is here. Now, sometimes for some people, now you don't have to go through all these circles. You could just go through, you can hopscotch through them all, or you could go to the ones that feel comfortable. But when you start to see yourself in this like comfort circle framework and like where you are, now like you're really starting to identify like what you need to work on and where you want to go and decide like, do you want to go to the point of creating your movement, or do you like just sharing your voice, So okay, I'm going to talk through the rest of this. So you found your voice, you're starting to express yourself, you're starting to feel seen. Now you're starting to be like, okay, now I've got to share it. People are starting to say, like, I am helping them. Maybe you gave a piece of advice and someone was like, oh my gosh, that just made my day. Thank you. I really needed to hear that, right? And so now all of a sudden you're starting to be comfortable sharing it. And that's when you might start a podcast or a blog, or you might have a Facebook group or a community anywhere. It doesn't really matter what platform, but you're, what else? Find your voice. You're writing your book, you're doing your journal, you're joining like maybe like a like a, it's going to say like some kind of grief activation program, but like something with identity, confidence, things like that, right? And then when you're doing share your voice, you're just starting your podcast, you're maybe publishing your book, right? Because just because you write the book doesn't mean you're going to publish it. You might do the TEDx talk, you might do the speaking, things like that, right? And so now you're sharing your voice. And then what happens once you start sharing your voice is, guess what? Number one is, if you're really tapped into who you're called to like be with, and you're like in your heart-centered mission, where like no matter what people say, you're not fazed by it, because you're so tapped into who you are and what you're wanting to do. Now, you're getting obsessed, and so much that you're ready to quit your job, or you just want to make it a full-time living. And that's when you're ready to monetize your voice. Now that's one of the, and I put find your voice at each level, because at each level we have to like find our voice again, because now you have to overcome whatever that is, that when I say monetize your voice, that's getting you to not want to monetize. So your yeah, because I was just on an expert panel, on a Follow Your Heart expert panel for the Modern Prairie community. And one of the people on there was saying, like, maybe not everyone wants to make money on their mission. And I agree, it doesn't start that way. You don't want to make money on your mission, on your heart-centered mission when you start, because you're so focused on the mission. But if it's going to start overcoming and overtaking your life, you really kind of need to make money for it to really amplify in the way that you want it to. But I learned something, because if that's hard for you to like acknowledge, then at least make money for a charity, right? Because there's no reason why you should be doing it for free. Like if you're anytime you're sharing your voice, honestly, there could be a paywall behind it, right? Because you share, you give things for free. As long as you have an offer, or you have an affiliate offer, it doesn't have to be your own offer. Now you're able to start making money from that, right? As you build your movement. And so monetize your voice could mean raising money for charity, if that makes you feel better in the beginning, or making money for yourself. Or it could mean, let me give you one more thing. There could even be, at the very minimum, monetizing your voice. It could just say like, pay what you want, right? So let's say you have a community or whatever, and you're still not comfortable with like monetizing, then at least say like donation. I'm at least taking donations. At least take donations, So anyway, so there's your monetize your voice. And I'm not saying that's what you should do forever, because there's lots of ways. I have certain things that I do with my programs where it's like I do this thing called my people parties. They're really fun parties, and you're able to invite people to offers at that party. I do the thing challenges that I license to people, and then they're able to monetize it that way. There's things like master classes, like Eileen Wilder, she teaches the $1 Million Masterclass system. There's lots of different ways. Through podcasting, you can monetize your voice. Anyway, there's lots of ways. That's not the conversation for this moment, but we will save that. If you guys are interested in hearing more, let me know. Now, the next circle is creating your movement. Technically, I didn't really want to start, when I started to do the thing, I was not looking to make money with it, because I had just exited my business. And so I was like just doing this for research for the book. Remember, I was dissecting the formula and then experimenting with it. So my movement was actually created before I monetized. But then what happened was the movement got so big, and I was having so much fun that I was like, and I was putting out all these like resources. So I was like, I've got to actually either slow it down, or I've got to monetize it, essentially. So let's see. Angie said, learning to receive value in return for living your purpose as a game changer. Yeah, thank you. I totally agree. It's like when you're able to own your voice, and then see that your voice has value. There's like a whole nother level of confidence that comes with that. And it's not just for you, because you're able to help people at such a bigger level, because now there's like this reciprocity. I remember there was that time when I was doing everything for free, and I feel like people were so happy when I created my first, when I sold my first thing. They were so happy to buy it, and so you're giving people a gift almost when you monetize. So anyway, so I did mine like kind of like opposite, but again, that's what I'm saying with these comfort circles. It's like it's a guide, it's a map. You could do it at any place that you want, but creating your movement, that's a whole nother circle. Now, here's the cool thing about this is you're still kind of like private at these levels. So you have the horse, you have find your voice, share your voice, monetize your voice, create your movement. I recommend you do all of this inside of a private group. And so then you're like, because then you're like tapping into your heart-centered mission without feeling uncomfortable. Like I told you guys, I'm still like a little bit, and now I was really uncomfortable the first day. You guys have to see that live on this channel. And when I go in Eileen Wilder's community, even though she's like the most, I mean, she's amazing. And I just like love serving that community. There was in the beginning, I was really uncomfortable and I would get in my head because I was under a whole nother level of like finding your voice. And I was like thinking I needed to show up a certain way for someone else's audience, right? And these people that are like my partners, like Capsho, Eileen Wilder, and Alex Sanfilippo, and people that I get to work with, you know, and speak in front of their audiences, they are so just like loving and encouraging that they give you permission to like be who you are. And those are the partners you want. You don't want to have to like look a certain way, because if you're here because you have a heart-centered mission, you've got to be able to just tap into your own inner kind of like gift, you know, and that's what comes out into the world. And so anyway, so everything's still kind of private. You have the horse, find your voice, share your voice, monetize your voice, create your movement. That's still in your private community. Now, I have make a movie. That's just because I'm helping people create movies now. That's like now the representation of now we're ready to make this like a global stage, right? The movie represents being on a global stage. Like we're going to be creating these feature films, and it's like, okay, you're taking this private grassroots group now and you're showing the world like what your mission is, what your heart-centered mission is. And so and then the other thing is, if when you have your group, so sorry, I want to make sure I'm explaining this right, because you have the horse, find your voice, share your voice, monetize your voice, create your movement. This is all you kind of working this through inside of a private group. But then when you have your group, you're working them through the same comfort circles. So when people join your community, your movement, you want to give them the space to be a horse. So if someone doesn't have your camera on, or someone wants to lurk for a minute, it's okay, right? Because you're meeting them where they are. Maybe they don't ask a question because they're not ready yet, right? Then if they feel safe, now you can find your voice. Now they can share their voice. And not everyone, depending on what your movement is and what your group is, they may not all want to monetize their voice. But I will tell you one thing, majority of the times it doesn't start that way. So like, for example, with my dating challenges, that would stay under the find your voice circle. Well, technically, I think some of them are in the horse. So between the horse and the find your voice circle, they're definitely not the share your voice circle, at least not the majority of them. I'm not like completely, you know, saying that whole group, but they're under find your voice. But what happened was, as they were doing my challenges, they started feeling more and more comfortable. And then when I did the Start a Podcast challenge, there was just like 5 people that joined that. But when I did Find Your Voice again, now they started their podcast. So they needed like more time to do it. So, and they didn't even think they would ever want to start a podcast. One of my favorite stories is Pamela Nichols, who was like, I don't even know what happened, but I joined your dating challenge and now I have a podcast. So anyway, so that was just, that's just really great. So let me close this screen. I think you guys are good with this. Let's see if I can unshare it. Oh my gosh, how good am I getting with Ecamm? This is so great. I'm good, yay! So, all right, well, you guys got to see, yeah, that's how you start a movement, is you start in a private group. So you're starting in a private group, and you can either start in someone else's group, you can come to mine, dothethingcollaboration.com. You're welcome to join there. You can start in a private group. I have a Find Your Voice challenge that I do where I really give an intimate space where people get to really kind of like discover who they are. You're welcome to join that. But you start in a private group, and then when you're comfortable, then you start your own group, and then you go through those circles with the people in there, even if you're going to go through them as well. And so that is how you start a movement. And that is the comfort circle framework. And yay, I feel like this might be my best explanation yet. So every time you hear me talk about this, it's going to get better and better. And that's the point. You want to like really kind of like, if you're on a heart-centered mission, you're a researcher, you're experimenting, you're like really trying to figure out what this thing is that you have. And that's what happened to me. I literally figured out the secret to changing the world, through the stuff that I'm doing. And it doesn't come out clear at first. You're trying to communicate it. People don't understand it. There's this like misunderstanding with so many people because they have this vision that's in their head, but when it stays in their head too long, like it loses momentum. Like for me, I get it out of my head before I even know what I'm saying. And then it gets clearer and clearer as I talk to people. And that's what I love to have you guys do too, is feel free, do that in a group, do it on a podcast, talk to people. Don't stay in your head, get your idea out and create your movement. All right. It was so good seeing you guys. If you guys have not signed up for Capsho yet, join. It is a game changer. What's so great is I love being messy, and I just do these like 5-minute videos. Like I do it with a dare, but like an example, one of my favorite ones is what is something you've done recently that you're proud of? I just record that on a voice note, and then I upload it into Capsho, and it gives me a year's worth of content. Or I do this a lot where I am promoting an event that I'm doing. I go live in my group and I talk about, and you're welcome to do this in my community, do this in the Capsho community as well, because that actually might be fun for us to do in there. And I basically am talking about the event, but I'm not just inviting people to the event. I tell them why I care. Oh my gosh, I just figured out how to see it I'm so excited. I have my phone here and it's been distracting to see the comments. And I just thank you, Angie, for saying thank you, because I now see how I can see it on the eCam thing. Yay, I'm really figuring this out. I'm so excited. But yeah, so I talk about the event, and I don't just say that the event is there. I actually will talk about, why do I care? Why am I doing it? What do I hope people will get from it? And then I pull my guts out and it's usually like a 5-minute live. It's how I get usually, like, I mean, depending on when it is and what I do with that after, I can get 50 people pretty easily in a couple of days just from doing that. And then I put it in Capsho, and then Capsho turns it into a year's worth of content that anytime I want to promote anything, I get to use it. So it's so cool. And I recommend doing that like right when you're in the energy of whatever you're doing, so that you're at your most alive state when you're going live. So Angie and Randy and Cece, if you have an event, I'm going to dare you guys to go live and talk about your event right now, and then put it into Capsho. And anyone that's watching the replay, feel free to do this as well. Put it in Capsho, see what it does. It's magic. So, all right, you guys, do the thing. Don't wait for opportunity. Create it. Bye.